June 22nd, 2013. So a little bit later in the month, a couple weeks after I showed you around what had happened all through May, since I wasn't able to get in here. But yeah, we're working on the engineer side rods, and they're pretty much cleaned off to a good point. Still working on the front end of this rod here. This is the main rod coming up on the front driver, and it is caked with a mess of stuff. There was some rust and some old paint and just some wear, grind on it, and that's why it's darker here than the rest of the rods. And part of that is because this is the side with the valve oil on it, which is in this box here, and it is tougher than engine oil, which was on the other side, on the fireman's side. This stuff is made to heat up for longer, so it's a bit more viscous, and it can leak all over the place. It was there on the steam chest, this stuff here. Tried to wipe some of that off too, and what makes it worse is that it's that time of year. There's still cottonwood blowing around, and it has gotten everywhere. You can see the other track here, all this white stuff is cottonwood, and it's making life miserable, especially for me. I have allergies, and I mow lawns for a living right now, and getting out there, you start sneezing. I'm on Zyrtec D, decongestant kind, so I have to go to the pharmacy and show them my card all the time, and it gets expensive. But yeah, it's just as bad on the locomotive. You get that stuff all over the place. This is some of the grease that I pulled off of the front here. This stuff was in here inside the crosshead. He wants it all cleaned out, and you can see in there how deep that goes back there to where the piston back end is. It's starting to show through. Just a little bit of grease left I gotta scrape out of there. I've been trying to get with the tools. See, like, you got that scraper there, the smaller one that can actually reach in and get that on the back of it. This scraper here is what I used to get some of the bigger chunks off. But some of it was so caked in there I couldn't really get it with the scrapers. I had to actually reach in with my bare hand and get it out of there. It made a mess of things. And he said that we should wear gloves, the rubber gloves, when we use the mineral spirits to get off there. But my hand is so caked in the grease, I had to soak in the mineral spirits and use the abrasive pad to try and get more out of there, which is what I've been doing with the rods. But yeah, it's making your hands soft, but really it's the only way to get that stuff off your hands. And the gloves, they just sort of disintegrate in the stuff, so you gotta be real careful what you touch afterwards, so you don't break your skin. I just wash my hands regularly when I get the mineral spirits on there, because I don't want to bleed out or anything. It makes your hands soft though. So as you can see here, like with these drivers, they're pretty much all cleaned off, but the front driver has had all that oil and gunk go all over it, and it's harder to get to. It's when you clean it off now, some of the paint is actually coming off of it. I used the scraper to get on the spokes here, because a bunch of that grease had got in there and mixed with a lot of dirt, and I'm scraping that off. At the same time, it's the paint is also coming away. I have to use the mineral spirits to try and break some of that up. But when he gets this back together and rolls it outside to have it power washed, I have a feeling this driver is going to come down to the bare metal in some spots. So we're going to be real careful on that. We need to wash all the gunk off here on the other side too. We got a washout plug up here. This one is going to be up here at the bottom of the boiler. I reached in there and tried to get that reamed out so they can put the plug in. There's another one on the other side there. And we cleaned out this track a couple weeks ago, and we had a bit of a mishap. One of the welders started a fire over here on the back wall, and so we decided to have this cleaned out. all the sandblasting stuff was put in the pile over there, and any of the metal work will also be done over there. So now we moved the 75 in here on this track, so that keeps anyone from doing any major work on this side, and kind of blocks off this stuff, because he said they had 20-foot flames and they had a bunch of stuff saying here that they lost, and we don't want to have another accident like that and possibly lose the shop, because we got locomotive here. That's what happened to 2101 back in the late 70s in Kentucky. So we don't want that to happen here. So we got this track cleaned out for 75, and it's out on a run right now, on a later run after 4. We got the Mighty Mouse on the table. It's out for a wedding. They had a reception on the train. They had left here with 7 cars, 5 coaches and 2 Ann Arbor cabooses. They've been also working in the cab some. They're trying to get these connections down here done. Some more add-on to the piping. They're looking for a bar to hold on to the bombs over here. For the steam control hoses, they'll fit up in there underneath the cab and run the steam lines for the stoker, which you can see, of course, are the pipes in there coming off right there, and they'll have their connections run up into the cab to the controls up there that I showed you last time. Now we also have the handrails on the back here now, and so a little bit at a time. They're both up there. They're primered where the connections are. And as you can see on this side, pretty much all the fireman's side stables have been capped, except for a few missing in places. They worked on some that were missing down here that needed some extra attention. So those are all done, and they will be primered pretty soon. And then you see all the caps are on this side, and even the trim that goes along the bottom of the cab is in here, brand new piece there. It's even starting to rust a little because it's bare, and in this kind of weather it's so hot out, it gets that way. Just a little bit to push in there. And the very back of the cab has been bolted on also, so that fits in. The other side is still being worked on. But yeah, it's pretty much up there for good now. As you can see down here, Larry and some other guys have been helping them paint the top of the boiler the rest of the way. They're working on coming down this side. Hopefully they'll make it over this by next week, and maybe be painting on the bottom. I don't know. He wants to keep going that way, or start in the bottom before he goes any further, because that's going to be all macropoxy, so this is all going to turn black. Even this stuff, in the next couple weeks, once that's done, that'll be primered and be painted black macropoxy. As you can see in here, the throat sheet is already completely done now. I remember we had this painted before, and then a few months ago they decided to knock all the stay bolts out and redo them, just because that was the only spot left. Both the outside and the inside sheets are the same though, but they just replaced the stay bolts. So that was the only difference. So this has all just been primered. And meanwhile, I've also been working on the pipes over here, some of the connections. These ones, he's been cleaning off today. Cleaned off most of the paint and the grime. You should have seen him. Paul had, he had a gray t-shirt on. He had this black gunk all over him when he was done. See the wire wheel there. He's still got to do this smaller pipe here. And once he's done with that, they got to be primered and spray painted black and put back on. I believe they go here on the fireman's side, somewhere up in there. See the tank brackets. So the tanks will be put on to probably, well, I believe the pipes go up under the tanks, so that might not matter. You can see where the little holes, where they're smaller underneath there. I believe there's another connection that holds them in place. And you can see here where the protectant coating on the rods, it's a bit stickier than the lacquer that we had before, which is just real tough to get off. But the downside of this is all the cottonwood and extra sticky stuff just stays on it. So when we take it out to wash it, we're going to have to wash all this off. Hopefully it'll come clean pretty good. And we have the super heaters, well, some of them. You saw them last time, a group of them, and these ones will be pretty much ready to go. They've been taking them piece at a time and replacing the leaky parts, these elbows here. See, just this one, and there's another one down there, and then another connection right here. So they replace the parts that leaked, and these ones will be good to go. And then they'll move the next set in here once they're done testing. Some more pipes on here. Took the time to try and clean out the front, and the Boilermakers are in here. They dropped a bunch of their cigarettes, and you know how I feel about that. But yeah, I don't want them to be leaving them around here because they get sucked into the air pump, and that's not good news. Tubes you saw last time going in, and see, you can see in there. Now they're all in, and they've pretty much been rolled and done. So there might be a few in there that need to be welded still. But all in all, they're in there now, so we're going to focus on getting the super heaters into the big ones and mounting them up in the throttle area. So they're good to go. Coming down here, back onto the other side for a second. Let me show you the extent of how he painted that. Might have shown it earlier, but I want to get a broad side view of that. Okay, yeah, you can see how far he did make it up to the next course on the boiler on this side. So he's been carefully working his way here, and whoever helps him. So it's coming right along. Kevin said that he needed to replace some studs up there, so he's got to paint around them. But hopefully these lines won't give him any trouble. There's a little rust spot up here, up by where the catwalk would go. Probably has to clean that off a bit and primer that before he finishes the macro epoxy. So that's what's been going on. And over here, they're finishing up the last of stay bolts. He said he's got only a few more long ones, but he's got a bunch of these smaller ones to do yet. I gotta show you. This is some of the bar stock we got. These ones here were like used for the cab trim. You saw we gotta make another one for the other side, on the engineer's side. And let's see. Oh, it looks like we have flood in here. Yeah, I know, it's like fires and floods and all that. But actually what we do is we got the fire hose out. It's pretty hot today. What happened was the turntable was left in the position where it was on the main running track through SRI here. And through the heat of the day it got stuck. You couldn't turn the table at all. So what we did is we hooked up the fire hose and sprayed the whole thing down and got it to shrink so that we can move it. Because when the train comes back, we don't have to wait for it to shrink so that we can put the engine back inside. Because it could take at least a couple hours for it to cool down and contract enough that it could move. So we got it down there already. It still sticks a little bit. There's a little gap you can see in the first rail up here. Let me show you. But I don't think by the time they get back it's going to be anything. They got, yeah, it's just a little bit at the bottom here on this rail. It's a bit beveled. But we were able to get it right into position and lock it up. So we turned it off and we're just waiting for the train to come back so we can get it going and go home. But that's why this is all out here. The reason all the water came back in is because the hose is leaking. And yeah, it was going all over the place. We couldn't find a gasket that was small enough to fit in the connections either. So it was leaking where they were connected at. This, even these parts got a little wet, but it shouldn't matter too much. It wasn't that bad. This is the cap for the top of the steam dome. So when they get ready to get steam in it, well, when they finish up the boiler work, they're gonna lift that up there using the eyelet holes and a chain fall probably in the roof, and lower it down onto the bolts that are sticking out there and cap it. And this part here is another bracket. This one goes on the other side. This is another tank here, like these ones over here. And that'll hold the tank on the other side for the air. So that's what we got going on. Next update, I'll be showing you some of the equipment and what we've been working on around the grounds, and hopefully we'll see what happens with the rest of the stuff in the coming months, so that way you can contrast what's been going on. Hopefully we'll know when we have the steam test going. We gotta get the Boilermakers done with their boiler work first, so we'll see. Okay, from the shop here, SRI, this is, I guess, the third update for June of 2013, and 12/25. Till later.